I had some fun with this title that I created. Why healthy relationships are not about teamwork. They're about gender roles. Because I was looking for titles for my next video and I plug it into my AI system. And the title it came up with is Why Healthy Relationships Are Not About Gender Roles. They're about teamwork. And I'm like, that's not right. That's the opposite of what I want to say. So I'm going to flip this around. And it's so funny because in our, we'll call it modern society today with modern relationships, it's all about teamwork, right? It's all about being equal. It's all about like, we'll each do the kind of the equal same share. Like, 50% of the childcare, 50% of the dishes, 50% of the cooking as a general rule. And we'll both be like 50-50 in when it comes to like trying to fix the relationship and make it work. This is unhealthy. I'm not saying it can't be functional. It can certainly be functional. My marriage prior to me learning about polarity and my proper role in polarity and my wife's proper role, it was mostly functional. We did get into big arguments and we did sometimes hate each other for a little bit of time, but it worked. It probably would have worked less with children, and it seemed to be heading down that path with our first child, with our boy. But for the most part, it worked. It's functional, and there's many relationships that can be functional with it. So I'm not saying, hey, this can't work. What I am saying is it's not going to work when it comes to creating a relationship where the man and woman are as fulfilled as possible, where their needs are fully taken care of, where the woman feels fully cherished, protected, provided for, and the man feels respected, revered, received, trusted. The only way that's going to work is by shifting into your gender roles, right? Because teamwork, it's about like, on the same team, say it's a football team, just as an example. It's like you're both players and it's like the coach is kind of coaching you to do stuff and you're kind of working together on an equal playing field. And that's not true in a healthy relationship, in a polarized relationship. In a polarized relationship, the man is the one that is leading and the woman is the one that is following. And I've said this a million times in my videos, but this doesn't make the woman less than in any kind of way. The follower role in a relationship with a woman who is in her feminine self-worth is just as important as the leading role, right? I'm the leader in my relationship. I lead basically everything. My wife is following my lead and respecting my lead. And if she doesn't in some way, then I'm going to lovingly correct her and help her let go in some kind of way. But that doesn't mean I'm better than her at all. And it doesn't mean that I'm wiser than her either. It has nothing to do with that. My wife is a very intelligent woman. But what it does mean is when she's communicating her needs or problems or a fear that she has about my leadership in some kind of way or about something that she wants to do and an opinion that she has, she does it by energetically not leading, by using feminine communication. An example of that, like say I was doing something that maybe was dangerous financially. She could say like, hey, that's not the right thing to do. Like, here's how you should do it instead. Or, I really don't like the way that you're doing that. All of that would be energetically leading in some way. That's more of like what a teammate, someone on the same level would be saying. Instead, she can say, may I please have some help? This big fear is coming up for me. And then she explains what the fear is. Now she's not energetically leading. Now she is opening herself up to my leadership, to my provision, to my reassurance, and trusting me that I'm going to make a better decision. That role is still just as important as me being in the leader role. Because guess what? I can make bad decisions as a leader. I don't make many, but I have made some before. And certainly sometimes my wife sharing what's coming up for her makes me realize, wait a minute, I'm not being the best leader I can be. That doesn't really come up so much in finances, but as another example, in the past in our relationship where I'm just not really cherishing her. I'm kind of talking to her in more in this preachy kind of energy rather than this devotional, loving energy frequency. And so she shared with me what's coming up for her. And then I realized I can look at myself and be like, yeah, my energy is a little bit off. That's not what I want to do as a devotional man for my woman, and I don't want to make her feel this way. And then I can course correct and adjust. That's amazing that she's in that role so that I can become a better leader for her, right? Now I can become the best version of myself that I can be, and I'm inspired to be because of the way that she shares that with me. Now, I'm not going to share that way with her, sharing my fears and stuff. I'm going to be lovingly correcting her, letting her know what is a problem, like judging her behavior, but with love and care. which a lot of women haven't really experienced from a man, and giving her direction, giving her a solution of how to show up differently, teaching her feminine communication, teaching her a different way of showing up. And that role is also important. Neither role is more important or less important. But I wouldn't call this being a team. It's not a team. It's I'm the leader and she's the follower. This is a polarized dance. So with all that out of the way, I'm going to be talking more in this video about why this teammate framework is a problem and why shifting into healthy polarized gender roles is going to make your relationship so much better, so much more fun for both the man and for you as the woman. Before we do that, I'm going to introduce myself. Hello, my name is Zach Grody. I'm here to lead you into creating the relationship of your dreams using your feminine energy and what I call feminine communication to inspire a man into cherishing you. And if you have not yet subscribed to this channel, make sure you do that below. Hit the notification bell and be sure to like this video because, of course, I'm going to make sure it's a good one for you today. And if you would like some help learning how to shift out of your unhealthy control patterns and into inspiring a man into taking care of you and cherishing you and attracting such a man if you're single, then go below this video, open up the description, click on the link relationshipofyourdreams.com and watch the video on that next page, which is going to explain all of this in much more detail. And it's just a lot of stuff is going to click for you. All right. With all of that out of the way, gender roles. Gender roles are so much fun. I don't think I've talked about this on video before. Maybe I have. My grade 4 speech. No, grade 4 or grade 5. I can't remember which. You have like speeches, oral presentations that you do for the class. It was on sex roles. So we called it sex more back then instead of gender. And it's so funny. Like I would have been 9 or 10 years old maybe. And I was talking about this and that was my first speech. And how funny is that? It's funny to me, very amusing, that this is now what I teach for a living. Because I did that one speech and then it was never really a focus in my life. You know, my focus was economics and world issues and all this kind of stuff. And then I get back to literally teaching what I taught in the first speech that I've ever done in my entire life. Gender roles. And I don't remember what my speech is. It was probably very different than what I now believe. But gender roles are often seen today as archaic. They're old-fashioned. They are part of history that was just supposed to die. And thank goodness for that. As someone who is more kind of feminist-oriented many years ago, I think I shared some of those beliefs, but I don't in any way now. Because these gender roles are not based on tradition. Like tradition is based on our masculine and feminine instinct. There's a reason that we've gotten into these roles in the first place. And all of our tradition is based on, not all of our tradition, but a lot of our tradition is based on those instinctual truths. So one of the most obvious ones is the man's role is to lead and the woman's role is to follow. Like that's kind of the overall encompassing framework. Part of leadership for a man is to be the provider financially, which means he goes out and he hunts that buffalo and then he drags it back to his family. And in modern day society, that means he goes out, he works a job in a factory or an office or whatever. He gets the paycheck and then he brings that down back to his family to provide for them, to his wife and children if applicable. And the woman, you know, what's the woman's role? Traditionally, it is to be in the home, making the house into a home. Making it nice, making sure that it's clean, making sure that there is healthy food provided for the family. And if there is children, then ideally raising those children instead of outsourcing that job to daycare and to schools. Now, not everyone listening to this is going to be open to such we'll call it like an extreme. I don't think it's extreme, but compared to our modern day society, it is extreme. Not everyone is going to be open to that level of extreme division in roles. And that's okay. That's okay. You can still get a lot out of what I'm teaching you by learning the communication. But what I will say is, when my wife and I shifted into these roles, like, because we both used to work, we both used to bring a paycheck into the family and contribute in that way. I get so much more enjoyment out of being the sole provider. Now, of course, part of that enjoyment is I'm capable of it, right? I have the income to make that possible. If a man doesn't, well, it's not going to feel very good living in a trailer or whatever. But the fact that I can provide on that kind of level, I really enjoy it. I really enjoy being the only one that is in charge of that role. And it's like, here, sweetheart, you know, I give her money to buy stuff and I provide the house and I provide investments and all this. And I feel good about that. I feel good about being able to provide that. I feel like a man doing that. And then in the reverse, my wife feels so much more cherished that she doesn't have to work and bring in a paycheck in any kind of way, that I am doing all of this for her because I want to do it for her. There is something instinctually wired in a woman, if you're in touch with it, where it just feels so good for a man to provide for you without you having to contribute in that kind of way. You don't have to be bringing in 50% of the paycheck or 40% or 20% or any of it. Now, if you bring in money because it's a monetized passion, like say you're a coach or you're making little bottles of health medicine or something, alternative cures, or whatever, knitting clothing or whatever it is, I have no problem with that. I think that's great. But the point is, you're not responsible for being the one that's providing. You're just doing it because you're creative and you enjoy creating something and bringing something into the world, right? That's part of being a woman, because you can birth a child into the world. You can also birth, a business or a creative idea or whatever, and that's totally fine. But you're not responsible for it in that sense. You're not responsible for the provision into the family. So being in these polarized roles feels so much better for me and feels so much better for her. And even if she has a monetized passion at some point and brings in money, it's still going to feel so much better for her because she knows I'm the one, me. Her husband is the one that is responsible for it. Another example of this would be she's in charge of doing dishes and she's in charge of cooking. Now, for a lot of women today, it's like, that doesn't feel very fun. That doesn't feel fun. I don't really want to be in charge of that. That's boring. And yes, it can be boring. It's boring if it has not been infused with your joy of supporting your man in a feminine way, okay? And why is this feminine? It's like, we can talk about so many roles. Like, why would I say, hey, a woman should be cooking, but not like pumping her own gas? Like, I like filling up the gas tank for my wife. Even if she's driving somewhere where I'm not there, I want to make sure that the gas tank is full for her. It just doesn't feel right for me to have her do that herself. And it feels so good for me to be stepping into that role and being like, I'm going to make sure the gas gets pumped for my wife so she doesn't have to get out in the cold and do that herself. That's just not a very ladylike thing. Not that she's not capable of it. She's perfectly capable. She did it for many years before she met me. But I get to take that burden away from her, and that feels good for me, and then that feels good for her as well. Similarly, her choosing to cook, it's not like I enjoy pumping gas, okay? The act of pumping gas is boring, and if it's cold out, it sucks. But the act of pumping gas for my lady, for my wife, is what makes it enjoyable. And in a similar way, even if a woman doesn't have a natural inclination to cooking, as many women don't, it's like, this is not my favorite thing, and probably cleaning even less so, even if she's good at it. It's like, it's not, I just can't wait to get home and clean. That's my favorite thing to do. No, it's not fun for that reason, but it can be fun to do it for multiple reasons. Choosing to just let go, like it can just be a thing to clear your mind, but then also I'm doing it to support my man. This is what makes my man's life easier, and providing him with all this healthy nutrition. If you infuse it with that, suddenly it can actually be really enjoyable. And now that you have these separate roles where it's like the man is in charge of, pumping the gas and making sure the lawn is really nice and fixing the plumbing and taking care of the provision, and the woman is in charge of primarily the childcare, like the man should still be involved in the childcare, and then the cooking and all that stuff, is like, there's so much more joy involved because it's like you're doing it for the other person. Whereas, let's say everything was just totally split down the middle. I do 50% of the cooking, my wife does 50% of the cooking. I go out and work, my wife goes out and works. I do 50% of the childcare, my wife does 50% of the childcare. I actually do quite a lot of the childcare, but not so much for her, but because I really love to connect with my daughter. But anyway, if it was totally 50-50 like this, it's not really enjoyable. It's not really infused in the same way of like, I get to take care of my man in this way. Or the man, I get to take care of my woman. It's just like, we're roommates, and these are part of the chores that we need to do to make things functional. And that dynamic, that polarized dynamic, becomes lost. And that's tragic. It's not nearly as fun to be roommates. It just isn't. Now, that doesn't mean that it needs to be a fully black and white thing. Like I said, I take care of my daughter a lot. I've changed hundreds of diapers. I enjoy doing it. I really do, because it's a way that I can serve my daughter and my wife at the same time. Actually changing diapers is another example of that. Like the act of almost touching poo or smelling poo and cleaning all of that, that's not fun on its own. If it was another random baby, I am not going to enjoy it. But doing it for my daughter, who I love more than anything in the entire world, it's an act of serving her. In, yes, a very simple, primitive way, but I derive joy out of that because I choose to infuse it with love every act that I do. Now she's out of diapers now, but in the past, a year ago, that was what was going on. So I've done that, when my wife was pregnant and feeling sick, and also after she gave birth, I was doing a lot of the dishes. I was doing a lot of the cooking. And I got a lot of joy out of that too. Even though that's kind of the opposite role, I would consider that should be the woman's role. It's like, she needs me at this time. I'm not going to make her do that. She needs to rest. And now I feel good about doing that temporarily to take care of her. Okay? I'm infusing the joy of taking care of her again into that role that's otherwise I don't really consider a man's role. And there's a lot of flexibility with this. Just to wrap things up, there's a lot of flexibility here. I'm not saying go 100% black and white with this. And there's going to be some situations where the woman, and we have a few clients like this, where the woman is making way more than the man, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the man is stuck in like a $50,000 a year job. It's like, should you give up your $500,000 a year business so that the man feels more like a man and there's more polarity in the relationship? Well, there's going to be benefits and costs. I'm not saying one way or the other. One option is the man steps up more into managing that business in some kind of way and takes over a lot of that role. So there's a lot of flexibility. As black and white as polarity is, I will always tell you what is going to increase polarity and what is going to decrease polarity. But within that framework, there is a lot that you can do to compromise in your unique situation. And the way that you're going to figure all of that out, how are you going to do it? By communicating. So you as a woman, that means using feminine communication to communicate your needs, to communicate your unmet needs when there's something that you would prefer to have, or asking permission, or sharing your feelings when the negative feelings coming up because the roles are kind of inverted in some way. When you feel like you have to be more of the provider, you're feeling more like a roommate. You're not feeling cherished. Right? If you're not feeling cherished and you're in a relationship, or in past relationships this has happened, how do you solve that? It's by learning feminine communication and using the feminine communication to shift more into your feminine self-worth, embody your feminine energy, learn how to fully let go, and inspire a man to be his best and step as much as possible in that masculine role to take care of you, to cherish you, to adore you, to lead you with devotion. If you would like help learning how to do that, I would absolutely love to help you. Go below this video, open up the description. You're going to see the link to relationshipofyourdreams.com. That's my main website. And on that website, there's a main video that you can watch. Below that video, you can book a call with me. You click that book a call link. You book a call. On that call, we're going to talk all about what's going on in your love life, what is going well, what is not going well, what you want to shift. We'll talk about your control patterns. We'll talk about what needs to shift. I'll give you some coaching on everything. It'll be really helpful. You might cry. You might need to bring some tissues. And it's going to be really helpful. But then it's also going to be really helpful for me to know if we can actually help you in our academy. If I can give you the kind of shifts that we expect from our students. And if I believe that we can, fantastic. We'll talk all about it. You can ask me any questions, and then you can decide whether you'd like to step into this and create the relationship of your dreams with us. If that is you, fantastic. I look forward to meeting you on our call. relationshipyourdreams.com, and I'll see you there. That's it.